So it's March, and I've been back outside for a week or so, and we've been doing inside garden stuff, and so it's time to start doing some regular updates. Um, Hopefully the sound on this comes out all right. I have a new phone, and we'll see how that mic works and sounds, and if I don't like it, I'll go back to the lapel mic with it. But I thought we'd do a walk around and kind of see the mess, how things look in March before we really get started, and it really looks almost its worst. So we'll start here with the greenhouse, which has been rebuilt. Um, there'll be a video kind of showing what I did, how I went about it this time. This one's about 6 feet wide by a little over 16 feet long. I've made it so that it'll be a little easier to double paint it in the winter time. But I won't go into too great detail because I have a video up about that, tips like how to do this. The old greenhouse was fine as far as like it wasn't wore out or anything. It just didn't fit our needs, and we needed to do something a little different. And this isn't quite done yet, but it's good enough to be used, and that's what we're doing. So I thought I'd cut in here, and we are growing things in the greenhouse that have been started, and we got some more growing inside that we will, through the magic of editing, also splice in, right about here. So here we are in the kitchen. Really every flat surface that isn't taken up by something else is taken up by plants right now. As you can see, we're well underway with our seedlings. Way more than we need. We'll share them out to people. We'll find random places to plant them sometimes. But as always, the gardening really starts in the kitchen and is ongoing long before spring. Like I said, not a lot to show. This will be quick. The only planting that we've done is here. There's some peas, some beans, some tubers like carrots and radishes and stuff planted in this bed, but nothing else in here is planted up yet. Some of the herbs and stuff are coming back from last year. The blueberries are where they are. I need to clean up the pond, but it looks like most of it survived, and as you just saw there, the frogs have woken up, and they overwintered well in here. But I want to clean it up a little bit, get some of the leaves out of there, and cut back some of the dead plants. Seems like they're coming back. You can't tell, but the hornwort is fine. It usually overwinters just fine, so that's good. But all this is like, it was put to sleep last year. We did not do lettuces and stuff out here this winter. I wanted to, and we just did not. It needs a good weeding in places anyway, some of these beds. The strawberries, I've got them covered in plastic, hoping to kind of get any weeds that are left to kind of sprout before we get strawberries in. We're replanting this whole bed with strawberries, and you can see it's kind of working. Like there are things sprouting that I'm gonna be able to go back and kill if they don't get fried before we do that. But in a couple of weeks we'll have strawberries. So I wanted if I could, get the weeds to sprout early and either get them killed by a frost or be able to go back in and weed it again before we put fresh strawberries in. But this is all, about ready to get started. I will say that the pathways did much better this winter. We had kind of that mess of rotted down wood chip, and we had put clover in here. It looks like more weed than clover in here right now, but as long as I keep this stuff cut down, I'm not too concerned about that. I did seed clover at the end of the year. We might seed clover again in the spring. We'll see how it actually looks as this stuff starts to grow. Because the real idea is just to have a living pathway, and something that's not going to get into keeping it out of the beds. But we'll see. So one of the new additions was this bird feeder I got for Babe. She has pretty much loved it. The squirrels have loved it, unfortunately, but also the birds have loved it. And so probably this year I'll probably integrate some footage from that from time to time. I have to kind of go through that stuff, and when there's something interesting I'll add it in. But it's here by the grapevine where I pruned this back a few weeks ago. Really right on time. I think if I had waited any longer, that we would have been in trouble. But this grapevine is the one that's been around since the first year we put in grapes, and I doubt we'll get grapes this year, but you never know. But I'm pretty sure by next year it will be established enough. That grapevine seems to be doing well. I'm not sure about that last line, which is actually hardy kiwis, but the grapevine down here is doing well too. So I pulled the trellis out of here because we never used it, and actually part of it has been used for the greenhouse. Part of it's going to be used for something else. This part also, I have a plan for it that you'll see. But the squash all did really well here, so I think that's the plan. We'll refresh this bed here within the next week or so, probably Saturday, and get it ready for squashes and stuff again. These beds aren't doing anything, but I'm not too worried about that because it isn't time for them. But the sunchokes, I'm sure will do well. There's going to be some weeding needed there. And the artichokes have done really well, way better than I expected. So I expect, they'll start popping up through this here within the next few weeks. They usually do. And we'll be able to start harvesting them. The shade garden has gotten devoured over the winter. It's going to be interesting to see what comes back and what doesn't. It's a little early for that. But we'll see. Hopefully more of it comes back than it looks like now. Like I'm not seeing any of the hostas and stuff, but I'm not seeing any of the hostas anywhere else either. So it's just not quite time yet. We're still early in March, even if it has been a little warmer. You can see our daffodils are flowering in various places. There's a bunch of them down there that are doing pretty well. But I suspect most of this will come back, especially if they don't get into, the critters don't get into it in the spring. But when the fall came around and everything became scarce, they just came over here and devoured things. Tulips already starting to come out of the ground. This section that's marked off here is what I did at the end of the year last year. This is like a collection of probably, I want to say there's like 50 pastels in there. Maybe it's 25, but I think it's 50 that I planted really close together. And then the others that I've been planting and added to over the years, some of them are starting to come up. Hopefully they're going to start spreading a little more this year. So that'll be great. Look forward to that. My willow, which is my favorite, is starting to look pretty good. Still got to trim that. Buds are starting on the plums, so that's good. We'll see how the fruit trees do this year. Maybe we'll get more fruit that we can eat that can ripen. Last year it was really just the figs, but we'll see. Fingers crossed on the apples this year and the plums. Again, like all this, we haven't even begun like the spring kind of cleanup either. But daffodils are doing well. There's some mini irises that started blooming really a couple weeks ago. But they're doing well. Nice little early color. Not sure how this alpine's going to do. This thing's always a mess. We've kind of took it over. We'll see this year. And here I've got a bunch of fancier tulips that I bought, and I planted them in here for the year. After they bloom and die back, I will pull them out of there and put them in the ground with the other tulips. And I think that's going to be the plan moving forward, to expand the tulip garden. Is getting some really nice tulips, growing them in a box or something one year, and then transferring them to the ground the next year, and adding another group of tulips to the box. So that'll be a time, a long time project. That'll be something that we do over time. And now, of course, as always, the keyhole garden last, which not doing anything yet. Just a little bit. You see some Dusty Miller and stuff like that in there. The weeds have not been bad so far, which is good. Usually this time of year they're loaded with weeds, so they seem to do pretty well this year. I have mulched them with leaves that have gone away. But hopefully this will be a really good year for the keyhole. It's been better every year, which is always the goal. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. Not a whole lot to show, not a whole lot to be like, oh wow, that's amazing. None of that. It kind of starts like this with nothing, and it's like, okay, what do we want to do this year? Which actually is a question we've been asking since the end of last year. So, yeah, this is where we're starting.